Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a great day so far. My name is Kimmy. I'm the VP of Operations for the Information Security Club at the University of Calgary, and welcome to today's speaker series. Really quickly before we begin, like always, I will need you guys to use this QR code to our attendance form, and I'll also post this to the comments section for your convenience. Let's do that really quickly here. That helps us out a lot, so please just take the time to fill it out. It doesn't take more than 30 seconds, I feel like. Okay, so joining us today is our special guest, Dr. A. Dr. A has a professional background as a professor at the University of Calgary and has research in the focus of cryptography within information security. Her presentation will be on cryptography algorithms in regards to internet security, as well as her findings on its cryptographic infrastructure. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so stay tuned for that. I will try my best to get through everyone's questions this time around. Without further ado, please welcome Dr. A.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to talk about this topic, which is very dear to my heart. It's important and something that I believe everyone should know and be thinking about. So we are going to look at how to secure internet in the age of quantum computers. And I hope that the main message of the talk, which is quantum computers will shatter the security foundation of the internet, and they are coming and we need to act now. So hopefully this message will become clear and meaningful to you by the end of the talk. Okay, so let's look back at where we are now. So this computing has a long history. We had it comes early days of quantum computer. Well, early days of computers. We have these special devices like this one. This is a special mechanism. It's an analog computer that is used to trace stars and do astronomical tracing of where the solar system is and things like this. This is 100 years before Christ, BC. And then you also have things like this. This is Roman abacus, which is again a calculating machine. So you can see that we have different devices that help us to do the computing. And then moving forwards, we have in mid last century, we have things like ENIAC and Colossus computer. These are the first general purpose computers, which basically means that everything is written as zeros and ones. All the information that we have is whether there's a text or there is a music or sound or images, anything, we write them as sequence of zeros and ones, and we do operation using these gates that and flip-flops and switches and things like this. So that is what we have in as digital computers, and we can do. And of course, these first applications of this are all military. So this is for ENIAC. It was used for tracing of the so the trajectory of bullets and weapons, and the Colossus was used for breaking ciphers. So these are the first application of computers. And as we move forward, then we have these two big branches. One is the one that we have these personal computers that evolve into what we have in our mobile phones, and now we have all kinds of devices that are effectively small computers, from our watches so to Fitbit to many devices that we have around home. So these are examples of smaller computers that we use in daily life. And then the other branch are these um, supercomputers that we use for biggest computation, simulation, drug simulation, atmospheric prediction, things like this. So, and these are quite powerful computers with billions of flops per second and things like this. So, but the basis of all of this is they are all digital computers. Information is always 0 and 1, and then processing are done through gates and switching gates, so switching circuits. So we also have these days more and more moving toward what is called quantum computers. So these are two examples of quantum computers, the one from IBM and the one from Google. So these are, and other major bigger players in information industries, they have their own version of this, or Amazon example as one of these. So, but the important thing to note is that these quantum computers are fundamentally different from a classical computers. First of all, information is not zeros and ones anymore. So we have these, the unit of information is a qubit. So previously the unit of information was a bit, but now the information unit is qubit, and it is captured as the state of a quantum system. So for example, the spin of a photon, for example, can represent our information. And this information is not only these two states, but also in a superposition of all of these, a superposition of these two states. So it can be, our qubit can be in a whole set of possible states. So that's fundamentally different. So when we want to read information from a qubit, we do a measurement, and this measurement collapses this quantum state into a classical state, and we obtain some classical information, some bit. So you can see that the quantum information is much richer than what we have in classical systems. And the type of algorithms that we have is fundamentally, again, different. The way that we interact with them is very different. And so what you can expect is that this quantum computer can do a lot more things that we are not able to do with our classical computers. So what we need to know, but is that this building these quantum computers at a scale, which means that a quantum computer that has thousands or hundreds of thousands of qubits is quite hard, and writing programs for them is hard. Keeping them stable is hard, because each of these qubits, as we said, stays as a state of a quantum system. So keeping the state of a quantum system stable is quite a challenge. And these are what makes quantum computers not something that we have today, but we can imagine that we will have them in future. And so the question becomes, if there is a quantum computer built with which is going to happen, because we have example of it for a smaller number of qubits now. So what will happen to internet security? And this is a very important question, because all information security that we have today on the internet relies on cryptographic algorithms that are based on classical information, classical computers, and class adversary that has access to a classical computer. So the question is that if these quantum computers are on the way, what will happen to our to the security that we have on the internet? So this is a question that we should be really thinking about. And I think it's important, is not just internet, but this is the whole way of life that we have today. So we are living in a connected world, a smart city, a smart car, a smart home. Our information, medical information is online. So our financial industries becoming more and more going online and becoming digital. So and all of these work because we have cryptography as the basis of providing security. And I emphasize cryptography. So there are many security technologies. You have machine learning, you have many tools to do security. But how we secure systems is by using cryptography. So, so in this sense, because all these cryptographic algorithms are mathematical algorithms and they are classical, so the question is that what will happen to them when we have a quantum computer? So with this motivation, hopefully it's clear for you that this is a very important question to ask, especially because we have a small computer, quantum computers today, and with the investment that all countries around the world, including Canada, are making in this field, it's quite foreseeable that we have a quantum computer in not very far in future. The prediction is about 10 years. That's what people are talking about. So today we are going to look at one special, so as we said, cryptography is our tool for securing our digital life. But today we are going to look at one particular, maybe the simplest question, which is secure communication. So how we actually send messages from one point to another securely over the internet. So we see how we do it today and what will happen if we have a quantum computer and what it takes to make to have a security in present when there is a quantum computer. Okay, so that was the plan of the talk, and so let's look at this very basic problem of Alice wanting to send a message to Bob, and the message is private. So this is one of the questions that was one of the first questions, thousands of years old, because this was existed when Julius Caesar was designing his own cipher to send command to his troops or to generals. So this question has been through the history, and we have different devices from this Skytale that was used 500 years BC by Greek people to write ciphers to then Julius Caesar, and then we have the more recently during World War, we have all kinds of rotor machine and Enigma. These are the way that we have mechanical devices to encrypt messages, to take this message, encrypt it, and send it to Bob. So this is that's a very basic question, and the way that it has been tackled is by using a secure encryption system. Now, when we go to internet, now we have internet, we have a network, and it's then the bigger question that is not only wanting to have confidentiality, that the message that Alice sends to Bob is going to stay secure. So Eve cannot see the message, cannot tamper with the message, but it's also Bob has to be confident that the message is coming from Alice, because the adversary on the internet can always forge a message, can pretend to be Alice and send a message to Bob. So when we go to internet, we not only have the issue of protecting the content of the message against the eavesdropping and tampering, but we also have the issue of making sure that the origin of the message is known to Bob, and Bob can be sure about that. So today what we have these two types of cryptography. We have a symmetric key cryptographic algorithm where Alice and Bob share a secret key and then use the shared secret key to perform some cryptographic operation. We also have public key cryptography where every person has a pair of keys. So it has a pair of secret and private keys that this public key is published, the secret key stays with Alice, so only known to Alice, and these are unique to Alice. So as against this case that every key is shared, so two people know it, two entities knowing it, here a key is only known by one person, and that is why this key can be used for identification of Alice. So this is the kind of, you can see that how we use this type of cryptography to prove origin authentication. We can always identify Alice with her key, with her key. So these kind of symmetric key systems are used for providing confidentiality and message integrity because they are efficient and we know how to build them securely. Um, but of course, you see that if you want to use a symmetric key algorithm, you also need to have a way of establishing a shared key. So that's key establishment is something that has to happen before we use these algorithms. So the commonly used algorithms that we use today, I think you have seen this. This is a very general list, and this is something that we use in a lot of these commonly used today. So this AES, which is Advanced Encryption Standards for confidentiality. Basically, for basic confidentiality, we do other things, but also it's basically designed for that. Then we have something like HMAC. We use it for message integrity. We have something like Diffie-Hellman key exchange for key establishment, which we needed here. And then we also have something, a digital signature that allows Alice to sign a message and prove origin of a message. So effectively, what we do when Alice wants to send a message to Bob, effectively, she does something like this. She shares a key with Bob using the Diffie-Hellman key agreement. Then she encrypts the message using the shared key using these two algorithms, AES and HMAC, and finally, she somehow signs the message to guarantee to Bob that the message is coming from Alice. So this is very rough way of doing it. You can do it much nicer, but functionally, this is what you're doing. If you look at this set of algorithms, you can see that both of these require, so both sharing a secret key and digital signature, both of them require a computational assumption. We are going to see in a minute what it means, but effectively security of these two types of algorithms, both key agreement and digital signature, they rely on a computational assumption, so some problem that is hard. Security of these ones, so encryption and message authentication code, in both cases, if they are well designed, which in the case of AES is the case, this is a very well designed algorithm that after more than 20 years, no one has been able to find any flaw in it. The same thing with HMAC. So for this kind of very well designed, scrutinized algorithm, the only way that we can break them, so we can break their security, is to do a key search. So find the key which is used in the algorithm. So you can see there are two types of foundation of security, either a computational assumption or there is a key search. So one of these two are going to be the basis of security. And to just remind you, I'm sure all of you know, but just to make sure that we are all on the same page. So these are the two computational assumptions that we are using on the internet today. So the first one is discrete logarithm problem, which effectively says that if I give you a group, a generator of a group, and the generator written to the power of x, if I give you this triplet and I tell you what is x, you cannot find it. You cannot easily, you do not have an efficient algorithm to do it. This is a simple example. You can say, I give you this number 100 and I give you this modulus. This modulus is this. And I say, find an x such that 2 to the power x is equal to 100 mod this. And so x is this number, and the only way that you can find x is to try all x's. Okay, it's from 1 to this number. So that's an example of discrete logarithm problem. And the second problem that we also commonly use is integer factorization. So I give you a number n, and I tell you this is a product of two numbers, two prime numbers, p and q, find p and q. And so again, this is a problem that the only efficient way, well, we do not have any efficient way of finding this P and Q other than exhaustively searching through everything from 1 to a square root of n. So these two, we trust them, we trust these, we call them hard because, I mean, there is, of course, a theoretical definition of what hard means, is complexity theoretic definition, but we don't, I think intuitively it is hard because we only have to do exhaustive search for impossible values, right? So these two algorithms are the basis of all computationally secure public key and key agreement problems that we have today. So you can see how important these are. Two elegant algorithms, elegant problems, very easy to state, and hundreds of years of mathematicians and computer scientists working on them and not being able to find any efficient solution makes us happy that we can trust these are hard. So we base our security on these two. We design our secure algorithms so that breaking of those becomes equivalent to solving these problems. So when it comes, so this was classical world, right? So now when we go to quantum world, so there are two celebrated quantum algorithms. And it's interesting, you can see that they are both found around the same time, mid-90s. So one of them is Shor algorithm, and Shor algorithm effectively gives a quantum algorithm, an algorithm that runs on that quantum computer with qubits and superposition of states and all that. This algorithm actually gives you an efficient solution to both of these problems, both discrete log and integer factorization. So effectively, Shor's algorithm breaks all these systems that rely on these two assumptions. Grover algorithm is a search algorithm. It's a quantum search algorithm. So searching in unstructured data. So it reduces the size of search space by a square root. So you can see that if you had to search, if your key length was 128 bits, so you had 2 to the 128 bit search. Now using a quantum algorithm, you can have 2 to the 64 bit search. So it becomes much, much smaller, 2 to the 64 times less. So I think that's, so these two have existed maybe now is 30 years now, 25, more than 25 years. So the question is that now, if there is a quantum computer, what happens? If you have a quantum computer at a scale, not a small one, at a scale, which means with thousands of qubits. So definitely, if we ask this question, the answer is that not very much. Not very much will be left because Shor algorithm will break all of these. So all public key encryption system, RSA, Ergamal, PAIE, digital signature scheme like RSA, Schnorr, DSA, ECDSA, all of them are broken. All key establishment protocols are broken. So effectively, there is no communication that can be secure on the internet. We also, another problem that we had was this identity, so origin of a message. So this message, they also goes out of the window. So there is no secure authentication. We do not have any digital signature to prove our identity. So, and yeah, effectively the public key, private key pair is going to not exist anymore with today's assumption. And so then there's going to be no application security, email, electronic commerce, all of these things, mobile phones, cloud storage, health data, cryptocurrency, barcode. I mean, it goes all across every aspect of our life, including garage door opener. So because all of them are using some kind of certificate, some kind of public key system. So, so this is what we say is a collapse of internet cryptographic infrastructure. So you can see that TLS, that this is your main algorithm that you use today to connect, to do everything that you do. You go, you use your Gmail, um, you go to the bank. Any protocol that you use today is more than 80–90% of communication uses transport layer security and the basic public key cryptography that gives you authentication and key establishment that you use to establish a key and do your encryption and authentication. All of them are going to be broken. And as we said, there is no origin authentication. Okay, so post-quantum cryptography actually is addressing this. It's a cryptographic schemes that will stay secure even if there is a large quantum computer. It's a scaled, high scale, well, large enough quantum computer. So we also refer to it as quantum safe crypto or quantum resistant or post-quantum crypto. They're all meaning the same kind of things. Then the important thing, so these are the systems that are going to stay secure if there is a quantum computer, right? So that is the basic definition. But we also can think of a quantum adversary. So quantum adversaries, they are not only have access to a quantum computer, but they can also interact with the system quantumly. They can ask, because we said the kind of information that exists in quantum world, the information are much richer. So a quantum adversary can interact with a cryptographic system in a richer way. So a query, a question that we can ask to a quantum, to a classical system, it gives us a yes/no answer. But in the case of a quantum query, it can give you a much richer range of information. So a quantum adversary becomes a lot more powerful. So I'm not going to, we are going, I just wanted to mention that when we talk about post-quantum cryptography, there are different definitions. So this one, which is an adversary, which only has a quantum computer, that's the very basic first step definition of this. But you can think about quantum adversaries that are much more powerful. Okay, so I guess with this gloomy picture that we have now, the question is that, okay, so we only have a quantum computer which is 70 bits, right? So it's 70 qubits. Should we care? So should we come back in 20 years and say, then think about when the actual computers do exist, then we should worry about it? The Shor algorithm existed for 25 years, so nothing has happened. So it's not that we should be really feeling threatened by this. But I think the important thing is that firstly, as I said, with the investment in quantum technologies, this horizon of having a quantum computer at the scale becoming shorter and shorter. So at the moment, there are these predictions of 10 years, but even if it's not 10 years, maybe 15 years, but 10, between 7 and 10, this is the predictions that you hear a lot. And the important thing, I think, as an engineer, as a scientist, as a information security person, what you should be concerned about is that even what would be the transition, the scale of break of the internet security is really astounding. It's amazing. So the whole thing will collapse. So how you rebuild this? So this is from a slide from one of the Microsoft leading cryptographers. So he made this just showing that the steps that even if you have all the research about development of quantum algorithms are done. Suppose we know how to build quantum algorithms that are safe, quantum safe algorithms. Suppose this research is done. We have candidate algorithms that are standardized, all ready to go. So what are the things that we need to do? And then he actually shows you that what should happen in the company-wide rollout for all all symmetric key cryptography. So we should decommission all the services that use this thing. We should migrate all the customers, all the system that they have to this new thing. And I think very importantly, we should have started our standardization effort, because the complexity, the complex system that we are using today are built on gradual developments and many standardization efforts over many years. So if we want to actually move, even if you want to move to a quantum safe system in 2030, we should have started many years ago. And this is exactly what has happened, actually. So I think the other very important thing is that the other reason that we should be very concerned today is that the attack that we have, that today the an adversary can just store all the communication that is happening. They cannot break it, but they just store it. So this mass storage of communication, and then later when there is a quantum computer, or when there is a powerful enough computer, then breaking it is something that can happen, that is happening today. So this is called future proofing. So we need to think about our system, because there is a danger of quantum computers. So we should actually design our system, even communication today, it should be such that if it is stored and be broken in, should not be breakable in 10 years time. So this is this kind of thinking, understanding of the scale of the problem, importance of the problem, how it affects every aspect of our life, has generated a lot of work. Industries, major industries, Microsoft, Google, all of them, they have their quantum safe, quantum crypto design and development of these systems. The standardization effort has existed in the past 7-8 years. NIST, which is National Institute of Standards in the US, they have just published their first batch of quantum safe algorithm for key agreement and for signature. They're calling for the second round now. In academia, there has been a flurry of research in this domain. So there lots of work has been happening. And so with all of this, the question, so just to touch on this topic that, okay, so I said all these gloomy time that all the two computational assumptions that we have are broken. So the question is that what can we do? What are the approaches to build a quantum safe system? And so I'm going to talk about 3 approaches. The very first one is going to be, of course, stay with computational assumption. So we need computational assumption to build to have a crypto key agreement protocol. We need a computational assumption for digital signature. We need them. So these are unnegotiable. So you can prove that you need this computational assumption. So we should use other hard problems that are hard. We do not know any quantum algorithm for it. So Peter Shor's algorithm applies to those 2 particular hard problems. So there can be other problems, and there are actually quite a large number of problems in lattices in code. So these are mathematical objects that one can study. It's a little bit more advanced than what we have in what we see in integer factorization or discrete log. And also there are algorithms that we can build signature algorithms that are based on symmetric key systems. So there is lots of work in this domain. The drawback of this is that there are much larger parameters when you go to these kind of assumptions. So instead of 4,000 bit key, we need maybe 50,000 or 100,000 bit public key. So the size of parameter grows a lot. And the other important thing is that these computational assumptions, a lot of them are much newer, much more recent, so we are not as confident about them. So this is an example of a quantum safe system that reached the final stage of standardization. It was based on isogenies, which is a new computational assumption, and then it was broken earlier this year. So the danger of using newer computational assumptions is that we don't know enough about them, not enough research has been done by researchers. Now, the second type of thing that we can do, we can use quantum theoretic assumptions. So quantum theoretic assumption, actually one of we don't need a quantum computer to have a quantum cryptographic system. In particular, we can have a quantum key distribution. So this is in fact the celebrated protocol by Bennett and Brassard. Brassard is from University of Montreal, it's a Canadian. So their protocol is actually, it's the first protocol that uses quantum communication, sending a sequence of photons, polarized photons, and then by doing measurement and then reconciliation and extraction, obtain shared key that is information theoretically secure. So, which means that the key is going to, no adversary with infinite computational power cannot find the key. The main assumption here is that the laws of quantum mechanics holds, and then we have all these so no cloning theorem and all fundamentals that are the basis of quantum mechanics, they are used in proof of security of this. So the drawback of this quantum key distribution is that it is a short, we can only do it for short distance, it's low rate and special equipment, so it's not for prime time. Well, I mean, it's used for short distances. If you want to have long distances, you have to have a repeater, you have to decode and then resend and things like this. So, which means that you don't have end-to-end security. So this is and when people use QKD, then so they establish a shared key and they use a one-time path. And so the system becomes, they use this shared key to mask the message. So they share a key and then X or the key with the message. So this becomes the cipher. It's a basic one-time path system. But this is a very costly system, very low rate system that we are going to have. Now, the third type of security that maybe you're less familiar with is what is called physical layer assumption. You're assuming, making assumption about adversaries' access to the channel. So just remember, one type of assumption is computational assumption. We are assuming that the adversary is computationally bounded. The second type was quantum theoretic assumption, that we are assuming that the law of quantum mechanics holds. And then the third type is that we are making assumption not about the computation of the adversary. It can have infinite computation, but it's going to be limited in accessing to the system. So for example, if you have in a network, Alice and Bob are connected by these three paths. So we are assuming that not all of these paths can be controlled by the adversary. So the adversary, the number of paths that can be seen by the adversary between Alice and Bob is less than all. And so if we have this, there are some paths, the adversary doesn't know, but we don't know which path are not seen by the adversary. But if there is a multiple path communication between Alice and Bob, and some of these paths are not seen by the adversary, we can devise encoding systems that gives you information theoretic security. Okay, so this is the third type of security, this third type of assumption that we can use, and there's lots of work in design to design systems like that. So I think I want to just very briefly tell you about some of the work that we do in my group. So we look at quantum-enabled hybrid encryption. So this is using quantum communication as the first step, and then uses hybrid encryption to have efficient post-quantum security. So it combines the QKD and classical encryption system in a combined way, so that we have a highly efficient quantum-enabled security for confidentiality. We also use multipath for secure communication. This is a physical layer security, as I said before, information theoretic security, and we also do use work on hash-based signature, which are symmetric key signature schemes. So I think this is a slide on quantum-enabled hybrid encryption. As you can see, between Alice and Bob, there is this, we are assuming that there is a quantum communication channel, and quantum communication channel is effectively implemented by a fiber communication. You can send polarized photons on fiber. So this is joint work with my colleague in physics department. So they are actually implementing such systems. And this part is this encapsulation and decapsulation part that takes these quantum states that are sent and received and measured into and turned into classical strings, use those to a string to encrypt messages at a high rate. So this is our uses encapsulation and decapsulation mechanism. I'm just, because I'm running out of time, I'm just going through this quickly, just give you an idea what it means. So the second type of work that we do is information theoretic secure communication. We're using multiple paths to. I think one of the issues with security is that you want security always together with efficiency. Security by itself is like one-time path. So it's good, but it's inefficient. No one is going to use it. So multipath security, you have to make it efficient enough so that it becomes attractive. So we have path hopping systems. We have been working on path hopping system, how the sender can choose a subset of path, but by moving for this set of path for every message, it provides uncertainty in the eyes of the adversary and provide security. We also work on, the classical type of multipath security assumes this path are no disjoint in the network. So we only consider paths that do not have a common node. But we also have been working on paths that are not disjoint, so non-disjoint. These are disjoint paths, requiring disjoint path. We allowed the path to be non-disjoint, so crisscrossing. So the idea is that if you have enough of these paths, you can spread your message through the network such that it becomes, if the adversary doesn't control the whole of the network, then you provide confidentiality and with information theoretic security. And as I said, we work on digital signature scheme, and this digital signature scheme do not use any computational assumption. They're just using hash function and symmetric key primitives, like different types of encryption systems. So it's a particular combination of these things that you can make a digital signature. So signatures that are not based on a computational assumption. And so the best algorithm, quantum algorithm that we know is Grover algorithm for this kind of system. And we know that Grover algorithm is not really dangerous. We can always increase the parameter of the system to stay secure. So that's all I wanted to say. Hopefully I have been able to say that cryptography is the foundation of the trust on the internet, and this foundation will collapse with the existence of a quantum computer. And there is a need to start now, and some of the work that we do at the University of Calgary. So, and thanks very much for listening.
Thank you, Dr. A, for that amazing presentation.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you now, the viewers of the stream, if you have any questions, we'll take them at this time. Dr. A, I did want to ask you about your work at the research at the University of Calgary. What are some things that you find challenging or difficult on a day-to-day basis with your research? Just wanting to know from kind of a student's perspective.
Um, you mean the challenging part of the research? Is that what you mean? Okay,
Uh,
so I guess if you talk about academic life, so research is one part of it, right? So we have teaching, but more and more we also have to do a lot of administration. Also, we should do ourselves as academics. You are not so the um, administrative staff that you may have noticed also in computer science, they're moved to the faculty level, so a lot of things are done by the faculty members. But if you mean the amount of time that you put on your research becoming quite condensed, and you have to really make sure that you give enough time to that. The funding for research becoming also, you have to, so that every research that we do is funded by research grants that we have to be successful about. So, and there are different sources of funding. At the moment, both Canada and every other country, they're very much funding towards quantum computers and security of future internet in this line. So works that are on this line of work is quite attractive. Of course, we also have AI, all these data science also is another area that is quite important these days. But security, quantum secure information is quite a attractive topic. And of course, because you have Quantum City in Calgary, I'm sure that you have heard about that. Calgary is a quantum city. So, and this means that there are also opportunity to, we are going to have a degree, in fact, in master degree, I believe, in quantum technology in Calgary, in Faculty of Science. So, and part of that is quantum information, and also part of it is quantum security, so quantum safe security. So, yeah, so I think in some sense, I mean, we are in the right area, but actually doing the research is a very competitive domain, and but it's quite enjoyable, I should say that. So
that's good to hear. Thank you for that. There are a few questions that just popped up. One person asked, besides academic courses, what are some good ways to get into cryptography?
so there are lots of resources online. So I think that if you go to, but I think it is good if you're interested, because so there are quite a few courses online. But some of them are, which are taught by very high profile and expert uh, cryptographers. They are, they're not for beginners, right? So you need to choose the right course so that to be able to relate to it, right? So I definitely think if you're interested in, if you feel cryptography is something that you're interested, there is a course that we have. It's I think it's a fourth year course, third year course actually. That's a good start, but there are lots and lots of online resources that for any topic you can find. Um, yeah.
Okay.
But definitely, you're always welcome to send me an email. So my email is very easy, ray@ucalgary.ca. So REI at ucalgary.ca. I should have put my email here. So do send me an email and then we'll discuss it. I think depending on your background, I can definitely suggest resources.
Awesome. Another person asked, physical layer security assumption sounds very interesting. Is this a new concept in the literature, or is there existing work on this?
Yes, hi Nikita. So I know Nikita. So yeah, so physical layer security, actually, so I think this is for me is also very interesting actually. So this is, so if you look at found, what to say, so systematic look at cryptography, it starts with the work of Claude Shannon in 1949. So he's the one that actually defines cryptography, what's the meaning of security, formalizing it and proving security, right? So that is what we have. But then in 1976, we have the work of Aaron Weiner. So he introduces this concept of physical layer security. If you do not give full access to physical world to the adversary, you can make secure systems. So usually we are making adversary computationally bounded. So what Aaron Weiner was saying is that you can make your adversary computational unbounded, give them all the computation of the world, but make their access limited on the actual physical system. And I guess the example of network that I showed you, limited access to the whole of network, that is something that is an example. The other one is noisy channels. So if I send a message to you, so if the channel that comes from the channel from me to you is less noisy to the channel that the eavesdropper can see the message, that difference in the noise level can be boosted to make physical layer security. Yeah, it's quite a fascinating topic. I agree that this difference, you model it and you can use it to build security. So one of the famous quotes is that noise in a system is the friend of a cryptographer, because noise in a system, we try to remove noise, but the noise is actually obstructs the view of the adversary. So the adversary cannot see everything. The view of the system becomes noisy. So it's something that you send, a message that you send, if the adversary see a noisy version, not see every bit of the message, that noisiness of the message can be boosted to provide security for Alice and Bob. So I think that's yeah.
Another person asked, could you go over the difference again between a quantum adversary and an adversary with a quantum computer?
Yes, I think so. That's it. So an adversary with a quantum computer, it means that it cannot do the computation. It can only run quantum algorithms, right? So if I have a quantum computer, that's all I can do as an adversary, right? So there are algorithms that we said that are written in a different, they're different from classical algorithms. They can only be run on quantum computers. So I can run those things. I can run Shor's algorithm, right? But a quantum adversary is an adversary that can interact with the system. So what does it mean? It means that, for example, when we define security in our encryption system, we allow the adversary to, so we say that the adversary can send, so if I want to define security of a signature scheme, I say the adversary can ask for signature on many messages. And then after seeing the signature on many messages, it should not be able to generate a new forged signature. That's how I define security of a classical signature scheme. Now, so in our definition of security, the adversary interacts with your security system. So a quantum adversary can interact in a quantum way. So it can ask superposition queries. It can ask, instead of a signature on a single message, it can ask a signature on a superposition of many messages. So in fact, the interaction of the adversary with the system becomes a lot richer. So the adversary can learn a lot more. And so if I design a digital signature scheme, if I want it to be secure against a quantum adversary, I should do a lot more analysis and work, right? Hopefully that makes a bit sense.
Greetings from Mexico. Very interesting and important topic for the future of technology. It's the first time I close to this topic. Do you have any books you recommend to follow up regarding cryptography?
Books to follow on cryptography, I guess there are, if you look for classical books, I think the book by Katz and Lindell, so that's a classical book on, I guess it's called Introduction to Cryptography. I think these are very good authors. Jonathan Katz is the leading cryptographer. He's in University of Maryland. But as I said, cryptography is now, because such a fundamental topic that affects our daily life. There are lots of resources, right? So that book is a particularly good book, but it requires you, it's a systematic look at things, but there are lighter books that introduces cryptography in a lighter way. So I think if you send me an email, I can give you some suggestions.
Okay, long question here, but pretty much post-quantum cryptographic algorithms would probably have greater computation and memory requirements compared to the current cryptographic algorithms. Would it be possible to integrate post-quantum cryptographic algorithms into current hardware? I had to parse it a little
Yes,
bit.
definitely. So I think that's one of the paths that all these companies are following. Like, for example, Google, Microsoft, all of these. So what they're doing, they're looking at hybrid systems. So hybrid systems are an attempt to, because as we said, we know that we cannot, if there is a quantum computer today, we cannot immediately go to a post-quantum system. And just remember that transition for SHA-1 to SHA-2 has taken maybe more than 15 years. So SHA-1, we know that it was considered insecure in 2011, but the complete decommissioning, it is 2030. So it's a long period of time for a single algorithm. So what, people know this, and that is why there are these attempts to combine, to make hybrid system that combines a post-quantum system and a like quantum safe system and a classical system. So, and of course, this combination should be done in a particular way to make sure that security is at least security of one of these two. But there are definitely there are hybrid systems, and that's the actual way of transitioning to post-quantum system. Start with hybrid system that support both, and then I think go to the one that is post-quantum. And I think the key word in all of this is agility. And so make sure that, because this new assumption can be broken, so what we need to have is that we have cryptographic agility. We should be able to replace one cryptographic system with another one. So.
Okay. One person asked, many PQC algorithms rely on SVP. Do you think lattice reduction algorithms like Triple L and BKZ can pose a threat to PQC algorithms like hybrid?
Well, I guess so. Definitely, you seem to know all of this. Big, so details on lattices. Yes, definitely. I think so. So Kyber is very well, I think Kyber is the LWE-based algorithm. So it's a hard problem that is I think the best minds that we have today, they haven't been able to find any any shortcoming for the hard problem that is the basis of Kyber, crystal Kyber, I should say. But of course, the computational assumptions and algorithms like LLL and BKZ. So these algorithms have been known for a long time. So with all of these, people haven't been able to do anything, and it's but there is no guarantee for computational security. So I think this is quite interesting, because I was in a ETSI, which is European Standardization meeting in October, and one of the talks on this quantum secure session was really insisting that there should not be any post-quantum secure system based on computation assumption. We should forget about them. We should just go to symmetric key systems, and we should have enough design in our systems so that we can only survive with symmetric key and physical layer security. But of course, I mean, signature schemes are something that we need, and I believe these computational assumptions are going to last. So they look like very safe. They look like that.
Okay, so far those are all the questions that I have in the chat. Just going over another 30 seconds or so to see if any more questions come through. Okay, I think it's safe to say there are no more questions. So in that case, thank you, Dr. A, for such an amazing presentation, and
Thank
thank
you
you for
so
taking
much
the
for
time out
inviting
to.
me. Thank you.
No
Great.
problem.
And
Thank
please
you so
feel
much
free to
once
send
again.
me an email. Yeah. For
Of course,
anyone who
I'm
is
going to definitely
listening. Yeah.
follow up.
Okay.
And then I thank you to all the viewers who came out to the stream tonight. I look forward to the next stream with you all, and please have a great rest of your day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.